Hi, my name is Awais, and today I will be presenting the paper, The Pragmatics of Sustainable Unmaking, Informing Technology Design Through E-Waste Folk Strategies. I'm presenting on behalf of my colleagues Dr. Samar, Sabie, and Dr. Dhaval, Vyas. Every year, millions of tons of electronic waste ends up in landfills, polluting our environment and wasting valuable resources. But what if we could harness and repurpose these resources and design more sustainable technology? This paper explores the pragmatics of sustainable unmaking, reporting on folk strategies, practices, and motivations of individuals engaged in unmaking with electronic waste. We present actionable provocations as declarations for unmaking to inform the design of more sustainable technology. According to a recent United Nations report, the global material footprint has increased by 70% in just 10 years, while e-waste is projected to grow by 40% till 2030. Improper e-waste disposal leads to both ecological harm as well as the loss of valuable resources such as rare earth metals to landfill. Additionally, 37% of the world's population is still without access to the internet, and efforts to bridge the digital divide through device proliferation, which is very much an important and necessary endeavor, will only lead to the creation of more e-waste. It is hence imperative we explore mechanisms such as sustainable unmaking, which can help create more sustainable technology. Unmaking is a growing area of interest in HCI and design studies, with major bodies of scholarship on unmaking primarily related to sustainability and technology disassembly or repair. Sustainable unmaking is a perspective that focuses on how we might promote renewal and reuse, as well as link invention to disposal, embedding pathways and trajectories for unmaking within the design and fabrication of technologies themselves. Despite this increasing attention in literature, pragmatic studies about unmaking remain largely under-investigated. This paper addresses this gap by presenting a bottom-up qualitative study that investigates real-world unmaking practices, offering rich accounts of motivations, strategies, challenges, and opportunities for unmaking. These first-hand insights help identify pathways for designing sustainable technologies that support unmaking possibilities. Our study is situated in Australia, the fifth largest producer of e-waste globally, where only 54% of e-waste is collected, of which 80% is processed through low-efficiency recycling. However, there is both legislative and policy level interest from both regulators and the government, as well as advocacy and actions from community groups at more of a grassroots level for creating more sustainable practices related to e-waste. For instance, the Victoria State Government banned placing e-waste into landfill in 2019, and there is a national scheme to provide Australian households and small businesses free access to e-waste collection and recycling services. Australia is hence an important context of inquiry due to both the scale at which e-waste is generated as well as the appetite and awareness for taking actions to curtail the issues related to e-waste. We conducted 12 one-to-one semi-structured interviews with domain experts engaged with e-waste in various capacities across diverse contexts. Using purposive judgment sampling, we selected participants who had prior experience of unmaking with different consumer electronic and electrical equipment, were directly engaged with and used unmaking practices with e-waste in their specific domains, and represented a unique domain of expertise to the study in order to add a multiplicity of viewpoints about unmaking. Our findings are organized into 5 themes. These include visual assessment of materiality, commercialization of technology, dismantling strategies and constructive components, facilitating or supporting engagement with unmaking, and motivations for unmaking. I will unpack these in more detail now. Visual assessment of materiality of e-waste components and materials helped determine their potential for reuse, repair, or recycling. For instance, P11, who managed a commercial-scale e-waste recycling center, stated they gauge value of different device circuit boards by holding them and assessing the board based on its color, aesthetics, weight, and component design. Commercialization of technology and its underlying capitalistic motivations were seen as antithetical to sustainable unmaking practices. Rapid technological innovations were often driven by profit motives, resulting in products with poor quality that were not resilient nor easy to unmake. Participants discussed how the increasing complexity and integration of components in modern devices pose challenges for disassembly and reusability, where companies are forcing consumers to have devices serviced by only authorized repair teams, creating an environment that fosters a throwaway culture, encouraging consumers to buy new products instead of fixing existing ones. Participants shared their dismantling strategies for constructive components, highlighting that in order to effectively disassemble e-waste, it is important to identify and preserve valuable and reusable components, and that the inconsistency in the constructive components, both across and within devices, is a very common challenge for unmaking. Participants highlight their folk strategies, such as looking for inherent weaknesses in the materials, and even rubbing one's finger over stickers on the back of devices to feel for and reveal any hidden obscure screws. There are also opportunities to facilitate and support engagement with unmaking by creating more accessible resources, tools, and spaces that leverage creative approaches towards unmaking. For instance, P12 recalls an instance where they crowdsourced unmaking by allowing people to come in and smash components that needed to be broken down as a means to relieve stress in a fun, playful, controlled environment. There are also different motivations for unmaking. Some engage in it to repair their devices, others find it cathartic, some are concerned with the resource conservation and environmental sustainability, but further social motivations also exist. For instance, P7, a repair technician, enjoys solving problems and so repaired their faulty air conditioner to be more sustainable. However, later on, when the air conditioner broke down again, after attempting to unmake it to find the fault to no avail, they decided to replace the unit because they did not want to upset their spouse. We have distilled lessons from our findings to create 5 important declarations for unmaking that provide actionable insights and guidance for how researchers and practitioners can think about designing more sustainable technologies that foster unmaking trajectories. These declarations are named from D1 to D5. D1. Best practices around technology design, materiality, and interconnectivity are necessary to facilitate unmaking literacies and value judgment. D1 relates to how the materiality of the components, that is, the color, the content, weight, among other attributes, played a vital role in determining how unmaking can be used to create awareness and educate the unmaker about the components, as well as capture and salvage valuable materials. We must hence consider how we can leverage these features to facilitate unmaking possibilities. D2. Material decisions and compatibility options have consequences on sustainable unmaking possibilities and trajectories. D2 captures how the material decisions made during the construction and assembly of products have direct consequences for how participants can engage with unmaking when the products transform into electronic waste. These decisions can enable or deter certain unmaking trajectories. For instance, if we have plastic that is coated with fire retardant, that limits the possibilities of what might be done with that material during unmaking. D3. Unmaking has a fractious relationship with capitalism, but technology must be designed to be both commercially viable and unmaking-friendly. D3 relates to how there's a pronounced inherent tension between the competing commercial interests of technology manufacturers with the design that facilitates sustainable unmaking trajectories. Participants highlighted how manufacturing decisions such as closed ecosystems, proprietary components, warranties, and built-in obsolescence are just a few aspects that currently stand as barriers for unmaking and are incompatible with true sustainability. D4. Folk strategies developed through repeated unmaking highlight unsustainable unmaking trajectories in current technology design and suggest ways for how to design better for sustainability. D4 highlights how folk strategies developed by participants illustrate how sustained engagement with e-waste unmaking reveals pathways that might subvert systems intentionally designed to be unsustainable for unmaking. Unmaking is often closely aligned to or seen to have a strong affinity with sustainability. However, our data highlighted unmaking in practice can also have unsustainable manifestations. For instance, P11 detailing the destruction of gaming consoles due to legal liability and warranty concerns. D5. Social practices and community engagement around a plurality of motivations should be leveraged to foster an unmaking culture. D5 highlights the critical role social practices and motivations play in fostering a culture that encourages unmaking through necessary practices, rituals, and behaviors. Within our findings, unmaking predominantly related to utility-based approaches of dismantling e-waste. However, as an ideology, it also lends itself to social activism. Communal unmaking activities such as crowdsourcing the smashing of e-waste gesture towards this, revealing a unique opportunity to foster and develop social and cultural activities that instill values of unmaking. This is a vital finding for the HCI community as it exemplifies how unique practices like this exist in the social world, and it radically shifts how we might think about the unmaking ecosystem. This applied study on unmaking with e-waste paints a vivid data-driven picture with rich practical accounts of contemporary unmaking in the real world. We hope this work can further our efforts to develop a shared ontological understanding of unmaking in HCI as researchers, but also helps establish the basis for developing more participatory approaches towards understanding sustainable unmaking. Thank you for listening. We encourage you to read the full paper and would be delighted to hear any feedback or thoughts. Feel free to reach out to us to continue this conversation.